RTV6, Indianapolis This Week.
A show of bipartisanship on the baseball field in Washington. And Governor Holcomb is set to return this week from his first international trade mission trip. But first, we meet the man appointed to lead the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. I asked Archbishop-elect Charles Thompson about the divisiveness in our country with regard to politics and religion.
When we go to war, no one wins. At that point, you know, when things break down to that point, no one wins. And I think the same thing with the divisiveness, the polarization, no one ultimately wins. And so, you know, I look for win-win situations. How does everyone, how do we work together and compromise and seek the truth together? That's why my motto about being Christ the cornerstone, being Christ-centered, I got to get myself out of the middle. And got to get and Christ has to be at the center of it all. And the beauty, the goodness, the truth of who we are, and God's grace in the middle of all that, that's what has to be at the center. We can't let ourselves be at the center. I think too often it's our own egos, our own self-centeredness that leads to that divisiveness. And so I think, and that's detrimental to all of us. So how do we find the way, you know, we talk about the family being the fabric of society, and we're a human family. How do we be a family, a human family, a family of God? Because it's in the family where we really find how to live and love and respect and treat each other with dignity.
How do you advise Catholics when it comes to issues like the Muslim ban, immigration policies that may divide?
We can't be driven by hatred. We can't be driven by fear. We can't be driven by suspicion. You know, love has to be the first thing that drives us and motivates us. Sure, we got to take precautions and protect ourselves. I'm not saying that we don't do that. The U.S. bishops have been saying that for years, that we need immigration reform, that we do need to make sure we do protect ourselves and make good choices, but not at the expense of welcoming people and losing the character of what our country has always been about, and we as Christians, as Catholics, have always been about. And always reaching across that divide to lift up anyone. And Pope Francis is reminding us, going to the margins, to the peripheries, to the fringes of society, that no one can be left behind, Catholic or non-Catholic. So that's the best answer I can give you right now.
Your predecessor has called on Catholic leaders to resist immigration policies that are currently being implemented by the Trump administration, that, of course, being Cardinal Tobin. Is that something you agree and would abide with?
Yeah, I think for the most part, Cardinal Tobin's comments have been very along the lines of where we are as U.S. Catholic bishops. That you know, at our November meeting, we spoke about, you know, the need to be a voice, again, to be a voice for the, you know, the option for the poor, for the vulnerable, but to be a voice for the immigrant, for the migrant, for the refugee. And, you know, we believe in being both citizens of the state as well as of the church, being faithful to laws, but laws that we consider that are just. And so, again, promoting, we're not so much trying to be against someone or something, but promoting the dignity of the person, promoting our solidarity with those who are vulnerable. And who's more vulnerable right now than refugees and immigrants and people who, you know, most people didn't leave their country because they didn't love their country. They left a lot of times because of needing jobs, needing well-being for their families, escaping persecution, even death. So I think we need to keep that in mind. The majority of all those people that come here are coming here because of those various reasons. So I think the key thing for people to you know, look into the eyes of someone and see a person, not a problem. You know, I think there's a wonderful line that but Pope Francis has in his encyclical on the creation of the earth. The world, rather than a problem to be solved, the world is a mystery to be joyfully contemplated with gladness and praise. And I would say the same thing about persons. Rather than problems, let's first see people, human beings, persons, as wonderful mysteries to be joyfully contemplated with gladness and praise.
Our thanks to Archbishop-elect Thompson. He will be officially installed during a Mass on July 28th. Now to the investigation involving President Trump, his campaign, Russia, and the firing of former FBI Director James Comey. On Friday, the president essentially confirmed he is under investigation, as well as the reason for the probe. The president sent out this tweet. He says, "I am being investigated for firing the FBI director by the guy who told me to fire the FBI director. Witch hunt." That's a reference to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, who wrote a letter recommending that Trump fire Comey. Trump later admitted in an interview with NBC News that he fired Comey over the FBI's investigation of ties between Trump's campaign and Russia. Also this week, reports that Rosenstein could become the latest member of the Justice Department staff to recuse himself from the investigation of whether Trump obstructed justice. The report says Rosenstein has privately acknowledged he might be called as a witness by special counsel Robert Mueller. Also, Rosenstein released an unusual statement warning Americans to exercise caution with news stories that are based on anonymous sources. That statement came after the Washington Post reported that Mueller was also investigating the business dealings of President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Vice President Mike Pence is returning to Washington today after spending the weekend in Indianapolis. He attended a fundraiser for his political action committee at the JW Marriott on Friday evening. Also on Friday, he told reporters his decision to hire his own lawyer is routine. Pence has retained outside counsel to help him navigate the ongoing probe into the Kremlin's involvement in the 2016 election. Pence hired former Virginia Attorney General Richard Cullen to represent him. Cullen served as a U.S. attorney under President George H.W. Bush. Pence will travel to Central and South America later this summer on behalf of the president. The White House is announcing initial details of the 6-day trip planned for mid-August. It will include stops in Colombia, Argentina, Chile, and Panama. The vice president will meet with government and business leaders. The White House says the effort will be to reaffirm President Trump's commitment to deepening bilateral trade and investment ties in that region. Director of National Intelligence Dan Coats returned for a second meeting with the Senate Intelligence Committee, this one in private. It came 1 week after tense public testimony in which the former Indiana senator declined to answer many questions about the ongoing Russia investigation. Those questions focused on whether Trump pressured Coats to deny stories on the focus of the probe. Coats told the committee he'd talk in a closed session if he got clearance from the White House. Republican Congressman Steve Scalise is slowly showing improvement after this week's shooting that targeted Republicans practicing for the annual congressional baseball game. The game went on as scheduled Thursday night, with Democrats winning on the field, and the game raising more than $1 million for charity. Democrats also gave their trophy to the GOP in a show of support for Scalise. Senator Joe Donnelly was the only member of Indiana's delegation to play in the game. Like many others, he says he hopes the gunfire leads to a softer tone in Washington, even when there's legitimate disagreement on the issues.
Our job is to represent our state and our country. I represent Indiana. I represent America. I don't represent Democrats or Republicans. And any good idea is welcome. And I think that's the approach we have to take here, is that we're not, the uniforms we wear are the uniforms of red, white, and blue in the United States of America. And so I am hopeful that that will be the spirit moving forward.
Donnelly also paid tribute to teenage murder victims Abby Williams and Libby German at the game, wearing a Delphi softball jersey on the field. Governor Eric Holcomb is in Paris today, meeting with executives from Michelin. He's on the final leg of his first international trade mission trip. The governor is meeting with executives of an association that represents more than 300 aerospace and defense companies. He's traveling with Indiana's First Lady and about 24 members of a state delegation. The group spent the first part of the week-long trip in Hungary. Holcomb tells us why that country was the first stop.
We have the same strengths in terms of our economy and our manufacturing, and so we believe that there can be some partnerships beyond what we have today forged, and I'm excited to be the person on the ground to get that going.
Holcomb wraps up his trip on Tuesday, and it hasn't been all business. This photo shows the governor enjoying a sweet treat before leaving Hungary, a red, white, and blue cupcake with the Indiana state flag. You can see the confection brought a smile to the governor's face. Coming up, our RTV6 political insiders break down the latest testimony on Capitol Hill and the dialogue after a member of Congress is shot. Stay with us.
At Value City Furniture. Make it you.
Welcome back. We are joined by our RTV6 political insiders, Mary Beth Schneider, Laura Beck, and Marissa Lynch. Marissa, welcome this week.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the congressional baseball game. We saw a united front, unified there, but we really saw the kind of heated rhetoric, you know, right after the shooting. What do you make of that? What does that say about politics in our country, the state of it?
I was actually horrified after the shooting. While members of Congress were, for the most part, saying the right things, I was getting a barrage on my Twitter feed of hate from both ends of the spectrum. And this is what this nation has devolved to. It's sad. And the baseball game was lovely. I did watch it. It was a lot of fun. But what I think people want to see members of Congress doing is working together in the halls of Congress and not at the national field.
I think what we're seeing too is that this isn't a Republican problem. It's not a Democrat problem. It's an American problem. And I think as Americans, particularly those of us who have worked for elected officials, we have to continue to work together, and we've got to tamper it down and tone it down. And it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. It doesn't matter if your neighbor is a different political party than you. We've got to get past that, and I think the 24/7 cycle adds to it. I also think social media adds to it. When people are sitting behind their computer, behind their phone, they don't necessarily think of the person who's on that other end.
And they're anonymous.
And they're anonymous, yeah. So I think we have a lot of work to do as a country, but it was really heartening to watch the interviews where they were together doing the interviews.
Yes.
It was heartening to see how the Democrats gave, I think, the bat to
the trophy.
The trophy, yeah, to the victim. So, but it also shines a spotlight too on our first responders, and I think we have to be so grateful for the work they do every day. And I think we often forget about that.
Absolutely.
The Capitol Police were on the front lines there, and that was really could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing is what it did is, sure, there was some back and forth with people where they may want to cast blame or assign blame for this, how this happened. But really and truly, I mean, I think that what it also demonstrated was that we are Americans first and Republicans and Democrats second. And I found that to be incredibly encouraging, especially as you were saying, Laura. I mean, we watched those interviews last night, and I thought it was very cool that, you know, they all made it a point to talk about we're Team Scalise at this point. And so, you know, very, very encouraged by watching that unfold.
Marissa, starting with you on this one, I know we heard a Republican Congressman, Mark Sanford, say that Trump is partially to blame for this. Do you think the president needs to soften his tone?
No, I don't think that that's fair at all. I mean, I think that we are so quick to point fingers in today's society, and we really need to just take a step back and say, you know what, I am responsible for my own actions. You know, I will decide for myself what is right and wrong, and I'll go forward and do that. This guy was completely in the wrong. He was a part of a tragic event. I don't think it's fair to say that that's Trump's doing at all. I will say that I think it's somewhat common, but as much as you point the finger at Trump, or Sanford points the finger at Trump and says that he's partially to blame, I think on the flip side of that, you can also say, you know, well, then our media outlets that are spreading lies or fake news out there, are they also partially to blame? I mean, are they fueling the fire? I mean, I think that right now what we're probably doing, and there's a little bit of a healthy component of this, is, you know, questioning people's motives, and I think this is an opportunity to hit a reset button and to say, what are our motives in this, and how are we potentially perpetuating something that maybe somebody will take and use for evil? But at the end of the day, we're responsible for our own actions.
I think this guy's a nut, and he is the person that's to blame. Having said that, though, I think that there is, the president needs to set the moral tone for the nation, and calling people names is not what we want out of the President of the United States. That's also true, however, of almost everybody else who has a platform. This constant drumbeat of the person is not just wrong, but they're corrupt, they're evil, has really got to stop.
Laura, you agree?
Well, I think that we all have to have responsibility for it. I think that the challenge that Republicans and Democrats have is that if you do stand up against President Trump, he's going to call you an idiot, he's going to call you a liar, he's going to call you fat, he's going to call you stupid. He's going to do that, a pig. He's going to take off after you. So I think for Mark Sanford, he really doesn't have anything to lose in saying this. But at the same time, I think that the members of Congress have a real opportunity here to lead by example. And I think that folks are getting a little tired of waking up every single morning to Donald Trump's litany of whatever he's got to share with us before you've had your cup of coffee.
First things I see. Donald Trump's tweets. Yeah.
On Friday morning, we saw a number.
I check yours. I do.
We saw a number of President Trump's tweets on Friday morning. We had 60 seconds. Like, he appeared to confirm that he is under investigation. Where does this go from here?
I think it goes to the investigation. I mean, what was he thinking? And now it's in Mueller's hands. If he fires Mueller, I think he's in really deep trouble. If I were him, I would say I didn't do anything wrong and I welcome the investigation.
I feel sorry for Mike Pence out of this deal. I think, unfortunately, he's going to be some collateral damage in this, and it's not of his own doing. I really don't think that Vice President Pence is evil, and I don't think he is a nasty, mean person at all. But I feel sorry for him on this one.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a moving target here as we're going along. I mean, we've watched the different testimonies occur. Things didn't necessarily reveal what everybody thought it would reveal, and so now we just move on to the next thing. Well, how do we expand it? Where do we go from here? And how do we, you know, try to, again, cast blame or associate blame or figure out what happened here. And I mean, if there's wrongdoing, people need to be held accountable, certainly, but at what end? You know, what point is it? Do we continue to expand and move the target and try to decide what we're going after versus, you know, buckle down and say, okay, we've uncovered everything that we need to uncover and we're going to put this to bed? I mean, honestly, to me, it seems like there's a little bit of some self-preservation and some self-interest at play out in D.C. when it comes to some of these investigations. And so, I mean, we especially watched a little bit of that with Sessions, with his testimony and the line of questions that were prompted at him. Some of them were incredibly combative. And so, you know, I just think that there's a part of the American people, and we elected Trump because we were sick of the way that things operate in D.C. And I think we're still seeing a little bit of that, and hopefully it all works itself out, but I think we're definitely still seeing some elements of D.C. occurring.
I think we're out of time. We'll have lots more to talk about next week. Thank you all for your time. We appreciate it. Just ahead, major moves in the grocery business, the online retail giant that will soon be competing to fill your cart.
Your voice is their future.
The deal is almost done for Marsh to sell 26 stores to 2 Ohio supermarket chains. But the company is shutting the doors for good on 18 others that were not part of the deal. Those stores include the Marsh in Beech Grove, the grocery chain's location in Broad Ripple, and the store at 82nd in Allisonville. All have started their liquidation sales this week. Sales, we're told, will continue until the shelves are cleared. The company expects to close the doors to the 18 stores in early July. For the Marsh stores you will be able to shop at moving forward, check out our interactive map. You can find that on the RTV6 app. A major move in the grocery business on Friday. Amazon announces it will buy Whole Foods. It's a deal valued at $13.7 billion. Amazon has been looking to expand into the online grocery business. Analysts believe this could give them a leg up on Walmart, Kroger, and other chains. All stores will continue to operate under the Whole Foods name. Whole Foods has one location on the city's north side. A second is under construction as part of the Market 360 development downtown. The store is scheduled to open this fall. The district is facing a financial crisis. Now Muncie Community Schools has dozens of teacher openings to fill at a time when prospects for growth are shrinking. 75 teachers have resigned during the current school year in Muncie. The teachers union says that is far above the number of a typical year. A state board is in the process of picking an emergency manager to handle the district's finances and fill in an $11.5 million budget shortfall. Next, Lauren Casey joins us for the six things happening this week that you need to know about. You're watching Indianapolis This Week on
To Grow Here.
This morning, officials will continue their search for a possible body in the White River. Around 9 o'clock last night, someone alerted authorities that they spotted what they believe to be a body in the water. You can see here a large group of firefighters and water rescue crews searching, but they didn't find anything. Of course, we'll be keeping you updated as that search continues. Police are investigating after several shots were fired inside of a West Side strip club. It all happened on Club Venus on West 16th Street. Police responded to calls that a group was fighting fighting inside of the club just before 3 o'clock this morning. They found one man who was beaten up. He had injuries to his face. Security told officers that someone inside the club fired at least 4 to 5 gunshots, and then 2 people showed up at the hospital with gunshot wounds. We are told they are expected to be okay. Now remember, you can stay up to date on all of the latest breaking news on your RTV6 app. Here's a live look downtown. Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week. I'm Lauren Casey. It's time for the 6, so let's take a look at 6 things happening here in Indy this week. Plant food and build community. Tuesday is World Refugee Day at Indy Urban Acres, and they want you to meet your neighbors at their celebration event. All are welcome to join in on a service project at 10 o'clock. Again, that's at Indy Urban Acres. Well, if you haven't done this yet this season, you should grab the picnic blanket and enjoy a concert on the canal. You can pack your own food, and there's a cash bar available. You can also enjoy extended hours at the Indiana History Center. Well, Lucas Oil Stadium will be filled with the sound of music on Thursday. You can stop by and watch the Drum Corps International Tour premiere featuring 6 world-class groups. That all starts at 8:30 at night. 24 hours of booty. You're probably familiar with the charity bike ride that lasts for 24 hours on the campus of Butler University. Well, it now has a new name, 24 Indianapolis, and they now have a new walking option for this weekend. This day-long event raises money to support cancer navigation. The Idle Jorg Museum hosts its Indian Market and Festival on Saturday and Sunday. You can stop by and experience the cultures of more than 60 different Native American tribes while sampling food and watching live demonstrations. And you better work it on the runway. This Saturday night, the Canines are taking over the catwalk at a fundraiser you can attend with your pooch. It's at the Indiana State Fairgrounds. All funds go to support the Indiana Parkinson's Foundation. That's what's on tap this week in Indy. Back to you.
Lauren, thank you for that. And thank you for joining us for Indianapolis This Week this morning. To the dads out there, happy Father's Day. We hope you have a great week from our entire production staff here at RTV6.
Made to mix.